Hello, this is going to be a video on the Philistines. Sorry, um, and there's a lot of confusion about this, and I was planning on doing this, but what the straw that broke the camel's back was I saw a comment that called Goliath a Islamic Persian. Well, this is a picture of the Philistines, and it's from Egypt. And there's another Philistine. This is what they dressed like, looked like. And they were part of the Sea Peoples. They were a Greek people who they were kind of like sea pirates, and they settled along different parts of the coasts. They were the Peleset, and they get the Egyptians called them the Peleset. They get called Philistines. They worshipped in temples like this, and they actually found the archaeological remains of this temple just like this, which describes the Samson story very well. I mean, that's one thing that people may have thought was myth for years, but it was very possible. It could have, that wasn't just a thing. It's not like two giant pillars you had to push over. It was just that. And they worship pagan gods like Dagon and Astaroth. Here is Dagon wasn't a fish god. This is actually a picture from, I believe, a couple hundred years ago. Dagon was not a fish god, and he didn't have an Assyrian head. This guy doesn't look like a Philistine at all, but Dagon definitely wasn't a fish god, and he wouldn't have looked like this or anything. But as I was saying, the Philistines were part of the Sea Peoples. There was the Philistines, and the Tjekkers settled in Dor. The Philistines settled on the coast. This is the same time the invasion was coming up with the Israelites, and they into Canaan. So they had to fight against, the indigenous Canaanites and the Philistines. So the Philistines were a Greek people. These Philistia, or for the Philistines, the Tjekkers get kind of amalgamated into them because they're the same. It's the same type, people, the same Greek people. Ashdod, Ashkelon, these were their main places. Now, something happens to the Philistines where they're just going to get wiped out. That's why I show this picture real quick. The Palestinians are Arab. That's not exactly correct, but this is correct. The Philistines are Sea Peoples from Greece. This is what happens. Nebuchadnezzar. Boom. After Nebuchadnezzar comes through, they get wiped out. They lose their identity. The Jews keep their identity. And this guy, Cyrus the Great, who's a Zoroastrian, comes back and reestablishes the kingdom. Then they rebuild temple. Rome takes over. Herod becomes the king of Judea or whatever, and rebuilds a temple. Well, in 70 AD, the temple gets destroyed, as it was predicted by, the Jews. Even though they had they were allowed to worship, that temple gets destroyed, right? Horrible, and Jesus had predicted this, and Jesus' popularity because of this, because he had predicted this, goes through the roof. So by this time, by 70 AD, the Christians and the Jews are separate. And there's another event that's going to separate the Jews and the Christians even more and make them totally distinct. And it's going to encourage more Jews to become Christians. And it's this event, the Bar Kokhba revolt, which is 135 AD. In 135, Bar Kokhba was crushed, and actually the Jews were expelled from all of Judea, and Judea was renamed. The Romans renamed the area after the ancient enemy, the Philistines, but they couldn't pronounce Philistine, so they called it Palestine. And on the Temple Mount, they rebuilt the temple to Jupiter, just to quell anything, because Bar Kokhba his goal was to rebuild the temple. So they said, screw it, we're going to build this on top of it. And you can kind of see that's kind of the layout of the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque, as is today. Well, Rome ruled brutally pagan. They were, this was against Christians. This is a little bit out of place, but in this, okay, here this is. Rome was divided. Under Diocletian was the worst persecution of Christians. This is about 8293. But Constantine, who's ruling a quarter of it, gets a sign in the heavens, and we don't know what that is. And he starts to conquer, and he winds up conquering the whole thing. He takes over, he reunites the empire after it had been divided in half and then divided in quarters. Here's the only representation of Constantine that we have from his time. And he has the Edict of Tolerance, where Christianity is just tolerated, it's legalized. And he, over time, gradually accepts Christianity. It's not the state religion yet, but over time, his great-great-great-great-grandson betrays him, becomes a pagan. So then now, the next emperor after Julian Apostate was Theodosius, who makes Christianity a state religion. Then you have the fall of the West and the Byzantine Empire. This is the Byzantine Empire, just before Islam's about to come in. You see the Gassanids to the south there, Christians. And so this is Byzantium. This is the empire of Christianity. And during this whole time, the people in Palestine are all Christians. The ancient Roman edict of no Jew allowed in Palestine was not revoked. And this is where most of the Christian holy sites are. So Christians flock there, and then boom, Islam comes on the scene. And has been there ever since. Now, the Palestinians, these people, are the descendants of the Jews who converted to Christianity and then who were taken over by the Muslims and converted to Islam. So they are not the Tjekker or the Philistine or the Peleset. Now they are Arab speaking, and before the state of Israel, most of Palestine was still Christian. But so in a way this is right. The Palestinians are Arabs, at least Arabe, Arab speakers, and the Philistines are sea people from the Arab Greece. And I am a nationalist. So I am for Palestinian ethnic self-determination. Peace to you.